Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tapping Your Creativity in my studio. I am live from Northeast Minneapolis, and I cannot wait to introduce you today to an interior designer and one of the best that we have, not only in Minneapolis, but nationwide. I think she's an incredible lady. She will be joining us any minute now. Let me see if she is here. I don't think she is yet. Um, okay, so we're just waiting for Martha to join us, and there she is.
Good morning.
Welcome, Martha. How are
Thank you.
you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited. This is Martha Dayton, everyone. She is an incredible, beautiful, talented interior designer that has worked not only nationwide, but she works international as well. And I can't wait to introduce you all to her incredible insights and how she works as an interior designer and how she now that COVID is here, has she been affected or not? So, anyways, welcome. I'm super excited. Please tell us a little bit about your name, your background, where do you work, all of that.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, and love your work and love you and love your project. So thank you. Um, I'm an interior designer. I have my own business. I have 5 incredible people that work for me and with me. We've been in business for 16 years. Prior to that, I worked for another firm in town. We do both commercial and residential work locally as well as around the country. And then we do some international work as well. And we've been really blessed. We're busy and have great projects and great clients. And I have an incredible team, and it's been a great year. So despite everything that's going on, we actually are.
I'm, I'm so grateful and happy to hear that because not everyone can say that. So I think it helps mentally to keep busy all the time. And I'm sure that works for you as well,
Yeah,
right?
and I talked a little bit about that. Yes, I come, I right across the street from International Market Square where we do a lot of our work, have a great studio, and coming in here during the day sort of shuts a little bit of the real world out. Our business in terms of procurement and what's going on in the world definitely is affected. But when we're in here and working together and looking at pretty things, it's a nice distraction for the day. And then we go home and welcome back to the real world. But it is.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the world of interior design? What was your passion? How did you start with that?
That's a great, great question, and I always say, I'm sure you have emails from younger people saying, "Gosh, can you tell me how to make it in the world of art? How do you do this?" And I always say I'm such an odd story of how I got here. I loved interiors growing up. I sort of used to, when I was younger, buy a property, fix it up, and flip it. But I never set out to be an interior designer, if I'm honest. I had in my former life, I was a teacher of deaf children. And my education and background, I have a master's in education, so I never thought this is where I'd end up.
Wow.
Yeah, so very different. Again, love sort of the beauty of signing and the language, but I started. I moved to Minneapolis, bought a property, and redid the property. Worked with the developer, And at the end of it, I was working in commercial real estate, which, to be honest, I was terrible at. And he, at the end of doing the property, he said, A, can I photograph it? And B, do you want a job? And it just was the perfect sort of flow for me. So I've been very lucky in my career, and everything has evolved. And when I get the calls sort of saying, can you tell me how you got there? What do I do? How do I become a designer? My answer always is follow your passion, do what makes you happy, and it'll end up transpiring for you. I think as it did for me, because I certainly, to be honest, I don't even have a formal education in design. It just, it came sort of naturally, and the progression was, I was very fortunate. But I think if you follow what you love, like you did, it ends up working for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, I think that you have to follow that, your passion, and you have to find first what your passion is, and then just let it go and follow that. And so, I'm sorry, not let it go, follow that passion,
Correct.
and just go full force, and it will be successful somehow. Um, so, who and what influences your work, or your when you go to someone's house, do you tell them your ideas, or how does that process work? I guess who is your influence?
Um, who's my influence would be I think influence is following great designers, is looking out in the world, is seeing what other people are doing. I sort of always say now, there are very few at this point original ideas. It's looking at other people's work and how to make that work for you. When I work with a client, it's a mutual interaction. So we start with how do they live, how do they see their home, how do they use it, what inspires them. I get inspired just by good design, by good art, by going to, honestly, galleries and museums. And my family will laugh. We'll be on a trip in Canada, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that clip. That's a perfect fabric. We need to, so whether you're out in nature, or whether you're at a museum and you see something that's beautiful, or whether you're at the, Walker Sculpture Garden and something speaks to you, I'm always sort of logging that and then trying to figure out how to use that in my work. If that makes
So
sense.
yeah, it does, because I think that as artists, I think that, you being an interior designer, I being an artist, we collaborate, we work together a lot, and we think the same way. So whatever, it inspires me, it could be anywhere from anywhere, like anywhere from, nature to being in a museum to a magazine, just anything that sparks, my interest. I will go and look down that path. And so I think you're saying the same thing.
Absolutely. Great architecture. I mean, my
Yeah.
favorite projects are with, great architects where I'm learning, and it's a really collaborative experience. And then bringing in good art and bringing in, learning from each other, I think is great as well.
Yeah. For me, it was fascinating because I grew up, I'm a daughter of an architect. And so he would always expose us to, different, his job sites and his floor plans. And he was always working on a floor plan. So I always, could remember seeing him, making his marks and change, because at that time there was no computer. So everything was by hand. And, right. And so, so he really had like a very incredible skill of problem solving, and he really kind of taught us that too in whatever we decided to do. So I think it's very fascinating, how all these different things that we choose in life, they come together. Architecture, interior design, art, they all kind of merge at some point.
completely agree. And I think for the general population too. I mean, we choose to make our career out of that, but I think, for anybody to be able to have that in our community is so valuable.
So, Martha, tell me, do you have like an ideal client, if that even exists?
Um, does that exist? Yes, it does exist. An ideal client is collaborative, and will take our input. They might have a strong starting point, but
Yeah.
they've hired us for a reason. And we'll get into a project, and I will sort of jokingly start to say, "Gosh, didn't you hire us for a reason?" Uh, so, so yeah. And to me, it's not about the budget. It's about maybe stretching just a little out of your comfort zone and trusting us just a little bit to say, gosh, I wouldn't do that, but I'll try it anyway. And oftentimes the thing that they don't think they're going to like ends up being their favorite thing at the end of the project. So if I can get the trust to just push them a little bit, that to me is an ideal client. Just trust us enough to know that you hired us for a reason.
I think that also that, sounds very familiar in my case because I do a lot of commission work. If you came to me, it's because you're already trusting me that I'm going to do something that you like.
Right, right. And that's for you, again, your best client, somebody that says you go. And
yeah, so then they give me the freedom to do what I do. Sometimes, I don't have the perfect client, and I don't think that there is the perfect client, but I think that the fact that they are trusting you and you trust them and you have a good process, throughout, I think it's the best relationship that you can think of.
Right.
They can say, can you add a little more yellow?
Right.
And you're like, no,
Nope.
it's done.
Completely agree with you. Yes. And we'll bend and we'll flex, but then we expect them to do the same.
So let me ask you, I'm sure that your style has changed through the years. How has that evolved for you?
Good question. I think that we've become better adept at more styles. So to have somebody come to us, last year we did 2 projects out of, we did a lot, but 2 in specific. One was a very classic Tudor home that was staying very true to the nature of the house, and one was an extremely contemporary home in Costa Rica. And so I think when you're studying, like it was for me, it was really fun to study Tudors and the lights and the architecture and the history. And so I think we become better adept at learning other styles. And at the same time, I go back and forth. I might spend, I might spend 3 or 4 years not wanting a whole lot of color and thinking, I want muted palettes and I want it to be clean and then all of a sudden I'll wake up one morning and think, oh my gosh, color. And then I go completely the opposite direction. And I think when I talk to my clients, I feel like people do the same as we age and change and things inspire us or don't. I think you go back and forth liking different styles. And so we're always sort of trying to create for people a palette where they can do that.
So do you stay true to yourself or to the architecture if it's a Tudor versus, a modern house? Do you treat it then so differently because you have to respect that form of architecture?
No,
Or can the house look completely different inside from what it's supposed to be, or, if there's such a thing?
I would say that there's some flexibility there, and it's fairly client driven. At the same time, I will be honest, if somebody's doing something to I live in a really old home, and I think that you have to respect the home, but at the same time, I think you can bring in really modern furniture and pieces and art so that you can work with the bones of the house to stay kind of true. I mean, I think you can push that a little bit, but I generally feel like you respect the house, but boy, you can change it with furniture and fabrics and art and things inside. So
Yes. And what do you think about respecting also the architecture on the outside, so the neighborhood stays, you know, pretty much even, or it doesn't stand out. All of a sudden, you have a building next to you that it's like 3 stories high when, and so you would be the standout house of the neighborhood. What do you think about doing such a thing?
That's a tricky question.
Sorry.
No, that's fair. That's a good question. I think that's it's personal for me. I like a neighborhood to feel like a neighborhood, but I think it's okay to push it a little bit. But I do think I think there's sort of doing it in a respectful way, if that makes. I mean,
yeah. I mean, if you have because if you have a piece of land that they say, Martha, we're going to build this house. This is the type of neighborhood that we have, but we want bigger and more flashy, whatever. You kind of then help them get into the same lane that you're thinking, so it will be a soft transitioning for the neighborhood.
Yeah, and yes, but that's also I lean on the architect. That's an architecture question, so it's a team for sure, but that falls a little more in architecture.
So and you said a little bit that you've been able to keep with your projects right now with how COVID is going, and how are you able to work with your international projects and in town or nationwide? How are you working right now?
Good question. We are in our studio. We are practicing all safe studio practices. We are starting to do site visits and doing the same masks and safe practice. Internationally, we are not doing. Obviously, I'm not on planes, and I wouldn't expect that from my team. And at this point, we're in those projects, places where we can do it. We send a lot, to be honest. We send stuff all over the country, samples and things, and do FaceTime and Zoom and every call that we can. So I will have my set and they'll have their set, and we can do a lot that way actually. So we're doing a lot of shipping, but I'm not on a plane right now doing a site visit, to be honest. So
do you have anyone that takes care of the site, so you can say, like, I'm sending you this, let's keep going, or how do you do that?
Absolutely. We have Mexico, we have a project right now, and as you know, Mexico's shut for construction, and they'll pick right back up in about a month. And we have one in Costa Rica, and they are just opening back up. So our projects here actually in Minneapolis have not slowed down because building's been essential. So we've been trying to keep up, which, as the builder's going along, we were a little bit behind. So we're catching up there.
And I believe Mexico is starting now, actually. Yeah. So you should look into that, because I think it's going to be earlier than you think, God willing.
Right. You know better than I would.
Yes. So now we go into my land a little bit, and trying to educate other artists on how to negotiate and go into your to be in your peripheral, so we can be visual. So I want to say, like, how do you find the artwork for your clients? What is the first thing you do to find the right artwork for your clients?
Good question. So we do as you know, we do both residential and commercial, and we buy a lot for both. So I think it depends on, I would separate it that way. And I'd start with residential. We start with, we might just pull, we'll look at where we want to put art to begin with. What are the walls? What do we look at? Where is the sculpture? What's important to you? Are you modern? Are you traditional? Are you landscape? Are you, what are you looking for? But we might push that as well, and we might just start with identifying 12 pieces that we put on a piece of paper, just visuals, and say, respond. What do you like? What are you drawn to? What do you not like? I think for us, a little bit like our fabrics, when you're combining textures and colors and things, you want to sort of do the same for us with art. I will tell you, we don't ever believe that art has to match a room. So
okay, I was going to say, you're not matchy-matchy, right?
No, you know that.
Yes, I do.
Yes. Art is its own.
But not everyone knows that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, buy the art because you love the art, and we'll figure out where to put it.
Yes.
When it speaks to you, and you can find something that you love, we'll figure out where to put it.
Yeah,
So
for
really
sure.
starting with them and figuring out just a little bit like our furniture and fabrics. So you have to find a starting piece and a starting place, and then we jump from there. So.
And then you um, you show them, because I'm sure like you just grab from here, from there. Do you have portfolio of artists that you work with, or are you always on the lookout for new work or new artists? How is your process?
We always are looking. We are always looking for local art as well as national. We buy both. I would say we have some go-tos that we know well because we worked with them for years. But right now we just are finishing up 2 buildings that we were in, and we have a bunch of new artists that were really fun to identify and get to know and work with. Commissioned a few pieces, so we're always looking. And it's really fun. I mean, I have a file on my computer of art. And so, when I get emails, I'll file them, and I come back to that to look for new projects and different clients. So we're always looking for new artists.
So as an artist, sometimes you can feel very overwhelmed and not know where to start and how to get your art out there other than social media. How do you think it's the best way for an artist to get a hold of an interior designer, probably in their own town to start with, and then they can start moving around, but hopefully someone that, they can reach out and maybe, what is the best way? Make an appointment, send you a pamphlet, send you an email? How is the best way from an artist to you to get a hold of you?
Great question. So I took a poll of some of my other interior design friends to sort of ask the same question. And I pulled, so these that you guys send, with gallery openings or art or things, these are fantastic. I have a bowl, and I keep them all in there. And when you get something in the mail that pops out at you, I think those are fantastic. So if you've got an opening coming up, if you've got something that you photographed, like sending a postcard is great. I love getting a quick email. I got a really great one this week that just said, here's my work, here's a link to it, let me know if I can ever connect. And I always file those and I come back to them.
And it might not be for that project, but maybe in 6 months you go and you revisit and you see it and you're like, oh my God, this is perfect now.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I made is, I talked a little bit about this. Artists, your work changes and progresses over time, and so something that may not be right for me right now in this, this year, in a year you may have changed your style completely, and you send me something, and I think, oh my gosh, I had no idea she was working in that medium, or that she had that kind of a. If it changes, remind us, because it as you change, it may be perfect.
Right, exactly.
And we may have a project we've never had before that's completely different, and something you did 3 years ago may be perfect. So we're always circling back.
So let me ask you something. If it's commercial,
Yes.
do you still do original pieces of art, or do you do prints or G-clays, or it just depends on your budget? Like how do you go about that?
It depends on the budget, the latter for sure. But in the public, so some of them we may just do sort of retail art, but we have several great projects where we do all original art, and we commission pieces, and we do sculptural pieces, and we have some great developers who understand and get it, to be honest, especially in Minneapolis, who trust us to put good art in their buildings, and they understand it, they get it, they support the local art community. So that's been really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the residents love it. It really makes a difference. So
It's incredible, the art community that we have in Minneapolis. I mean, for people that don't know, we are the little Soho, they call us, here in Northeast. I mean, it is full of artists, vibrant art all over town. It is worth coming up and looking up and just, always having your eye open to new art that is happening in this town. Do you take a commission fee from the artist? How does that work? Do you put it inside your budget? Do you tell your artist like how much are you selling your piece for, and then you add a commission? How does that work?
we do get a commission, but small, because
Okay.
again, to me, it's about supporting art and letting you all do your work. So most artists do work with designers,
Mhm.
and it's not a fee. It varies anywhere from 10 to 20%.
Mhm.
So I usually will sort of gingerly say, "Do you work with designers?" And pretty much every one of them does. And we build that into our budget, so we know that's coming.
Right.
But for me, with you, it's such I think galleries are extremely important, and the work of galleries is really important. So I support that as well. But if I can buy a piece from you and let you have, and you say this is my fee, and it's 10 to 50% for me, it's a win-win for both of us. So
100%. I support galleries 100%. I think that there is room for everyone in this business, and as much as you can put your work out there, no matter how you put it out there, if galleries is your best bet, do that. If you can represent yourself, do that. But just get your work out there and have people see it, because otherwise, if you don't put out the work, no one will see it.
right, and we buy from both. To be honest, we buy direct, and we do a lot of work with galleries. I think it's a really important part of our community.
Yeah.
And the galleries work with us, so everybody is really willing to work with us, and allow that to happen. It's great.
So how do you find it? How would you find the easiest way to work with artists? How do you, like with me, we just have a commission right now. You saw a couple of pieces that you like my portfolio, and you say, do something in this, frame of work.
Yeah.
So, but how does it work like that normally with everyone, or just commission based, or how do you do that?
Hopefully I'm easy to work with. I don't know, but generally,
Yes, you are. I can attest to that.
well, and your work is amazing. I think it's when you see something that you feel is the right, as you know, I picked a piece and it was sold, which good for you. And I said, I love that idea. Do something that you love that's similar. And that's pretty much how I work with people. I had another commission for the same project as yours, and he said, show me the palette. And I said, no, you do. I trust your work. I get it. You do. This is the size I need. Go for it. It's not about, I don't want you to match the palette. I want you to do what you're comfortable with. I think that there are projects or places, I've actually had commissions where the homeowner might say, I hate orange and I hate green and everything else is fine. So then I can say to you, no orange and no green, but go for it. Here's the style, here's the idea. But I try as much as possible not to tie your hands, because we're hiring you for a reason. So,
And I love that about you and about our relationship because you give me the freedom to do what I do. And the minute that you tell an artist if you're commissioning them to constrain themselves, then the work is very different. It comes from a different place. It's not coming from your heart. And so I think as much as, people don't understand sometimes that, not saying like, I want this and this and that. If you're coming to me and trusting me, you're going to love what I'm going to make you. And if you don't love it, don't worry. I'll make you another one.
which is
Right?
so love, right? And I will tell you that not all artists will do that. That kudos to you, but they'll definitely. I've never had an artist say, "This is it. I'm not working any further on it." I mean, it's such a nice, it's a nice way to work, and I've never had an artist not work well with me. So,
And interestingly enough, when they say, can you add this or not or whatever, when I'm done and I have them look at the piece, they're like, oh my God, you were right. It makes sense,
and then they
right?
love it because you've done what it should be versus
Right, right.
yeah.
So you follow your instincts, and that works for me and also for you as an interior designer, and that will transport into your clients, and they'll love that.
And they usually like that better than if you had actually done what they asked for.
Yes, most of the times I would
Most
say
of the
for
time.
sure, for sure.
Most of the
So
time.
if you have like 3 tips that you can give artists on
Yeah.
how to work with an interior designer, how to get, our stuff seen, what would you say?
Send us images, if you send me an email, send me a link, but also put one, like your favorite piece on there. Give me a visual so that I don't have to work quite so hard. I will do the work, but if you send me something, put a piece on there, and then give me a link to your portfolio. Again, send postcards. The postcards, I know snail mail is outdated. It's still helpful to have a bowl full of your visual. It's all visual to me.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And then invite us to openings, invite us to things that are going on. And we'll do studio visits. We do it when we're looking for specific projects. But once we're ready, we'll reach out and say, we're ready to come look at some art.
Oh,
So
that's amazing. So, before you take us on a tour of your studio, of your office, can you just tell me a little bit about Pat's Backpacks, your nonprofit organization? I think it's so important that we talk about that. I think it's an amazing project. So, can you just tell us a little bit about that?
that's so nice. Thank you for asking. To be completely honest, we kind of shelved it last year, but my daughter Abby is a type 1 diabetic, and her best friend Pia had cancer, and they were diagnosed a year apart, and they both spent a lot of time in the hospital and at Children's, which is fantastic, by the way. And so they noticed a lack of things to do and a lack of feeling cared for teenagers when they were both in the hospital. And so the 3 of us started, but they came up with this idea to create backpacks that had comfort items specifically for teenagers with chronic illness. So kids that were going back for visits to the hospital and to the doctors. And so for 5 years, we filled backpacks, raised money, and had specific items for teenagers. And they, along with a board that they started, and a whole group of amazing teenagers, donated over 8,500 backpacks to kids with chronic illness.
It's
So,
unbelievable. And it's almost kids run by kids. I mean,
yes.
I've been in some of the events and I see, the board is, yes, they have you as an adult, but it is run by kids, which is remarkable.
Well, you were so gracious to come, and we had such incredible support. And I've noticed some of the people that had signed in and joined gave us incredible support. And we sort of wrapped it in a pretty bow and put it on the shelf because the girls are both in college and have other things to do right now. So it may resurrect, it may have a great life, but we overall impacted 8,500 kids, and
which is unbelievable. I mean, I commend you, your daughter, Pia. That was an incredible, incredible way to reach out and help and give comfort when they didn't have it at the time. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, thank you for asking.
Yes. Well, will you take us around and show us your beautiful office?
My messy, I tried to clean up just a little bit for you. Let me see if I can do this. So I turn you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was sitting actually, that's funny that you asked, in the space. So if you walk in my front door, this is my motto of life right now. Can you see that?
Yes. I think we are all in that motto.
So you come in the front door, and you tell me when you want me to point out. That's both local artists in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Todd Norstein.
Awesome.
It was made by a local guy in Minneapolis. And then you walk down our hallway. This artist is fantastic. She happens to be my daughter.
I love it.
And this was where past was. This was the sort of the office of tax, which was housed in here, which is now because we've grown so much, now has become a designer space. And you can tell we work and we have a lot of projects, and they're all over the desks.
That's amazing.
So that was my display for another.
And you have, yeah. Can you come in closer so we could see that artwork?
That's Teo Wen. He's fantastic. He does both abstracts as well as landscapes that are extremely beautiful.
Is he in Minneapolis?
He's in Minneapolis. He's fantastic. If I turn, there's an incredible piece by yours truly, which is so gorgeous.
Thank you, Martha. I love seeing that there.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Oh my God. It brings so much light in there. I love it.
And what you all, I mean, you know, but what you can, I mean, the textures and the depth and the richness are in person are so much better even than on the phone.
Oh yeah. The
it's
picture
gorgeous.
never gives it justice, right?
Right. Isn't it gorgeous?
It is. Oh my God. Thank you.
And then we come, so this is where I always say, this is where the magic happens. This is our big, messy, beautiful studio that I absolutely love, I have to admit.
Oh my goodness. It is so beautiful. You have beautiful light, natural light coming in.
Yeah, it's a happy place to work. So while we were COVID for a while, it was hard not to be here, but and just really fun big show. I am Clarence Morgan's over here, who's local. These are prints by Clarence Morgan.
Yes, I love him.
I think isn't he at the U still?
I think so, or he was. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
he's fantastic. So, where do you make your boards and all that? Do you make them on that big table, or do you have a conference room, or where?
We do have a conference room. We work very horizontally for some reason. Okay. I know a lot of designers work vertically.
Yeah.
As you can see, like this is the middle of a project going on.
Yeah.
And I asked them to clean it up, which they did, but you can see so this is clean, but you can see how we start to lay out. I don't know, again, I don't know why. I think a lot of designers work on boards. We like to lay it out so that we can look at it flat and move it all around.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks, Amy. And then when I go, we do have a conference room that we use a lot. And we are, as you know, working on a project right now. Those are both Jim Hillegas. They're beautiful.
Amazing. Beautiful.
So yeah.
They look good in there with your yellow chairs and table.
Don't they? I know you think I set that up, but they actually.
You kind of did.
That Nielsen also and adore him. Yeah.
I love that you support so much local art. It's amazing. I
Well,
feel very
thank you.
blessed that you are doing that.
Well, we're lucky to have you. And then again, because we've got a project going on, this is sort of the art corner. I've got a couple Todd Norson, and here's a great example of somebody changing styles. This is Todd Norstein from, I don't know, I would have, 1999, it even says on them. That was a series of prints that are fantastic. And then he moved
Oh,
to sort
wow.
of a series of tape paintings. That's actually a painting, which is beautifully done. And now he's doing something totally different. He's doing big t-shirts. So that it's a perfect example of sort of saying, you know, artists, oh, no, that's way too close. Artists change over time. And so
Right.
make sure that we see you change,
Yes.
so that we know what your work looks like.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Well, I absolutely have loved our relationship and, getting to know you even more. And your work is breathtaking. I love everything. I love everything that you've done. And I can't wait to keep, there you go.
Other than my social media skills.
Exactly. If you have any questions at all, please shoot them to me or to Martha. I will put everything down on my IG upload on YouTube and Facebook. So just find all her information there and reach out and show your work and be proud of what you do. That's the most important thing. It will come through. If you're proud and happy with what you're doing, it will shine. I think that's the best way I can say it.
I completely agree with you, and keep doing what you're doing. It's very inspiring and very needed. Art is needed.
I think that art heals. I think art can be therapeutic. I think art in every shape, way, or form unites us. And that's what we need the most right now, just to be united and just, to all work together. And this is a beautiful friendship that we have. And I can't wait to do more projects with you and your firm. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Martha, thank you so, so much. I'm super excited that you were here and honored. And thanks everyone. Have a great Saturday. Take care. Bye, Martha.
Bye, Sandra. See you soon.